because we had the special emphasis on these nature-based and circular solutions as well. And additionally, we reviewed some selected grey literature and also conducted some complementing interviews for selected scientific or practitioner communities on such innovations that we already knew of that were on a trial stage. And in this review, we defined the innovations as either new inventions or innovative applications of existing well-established solutions. And this search yielded in total of 208 papers that were included in the review, and they represented 78 individual innovations. And these 78 individual innovations have been described and summarized under suitable clusters in the technical report that we published at the end of June. So during the review, we searched information on the implementation and on the applicability and costs and impacts of these innovative measures. And the evaluation of impacts was conducted in relation to several policy relevant indicators, such as Water Framework Directive and biodiversity net gain, Green Deal goals, zero pollution, etc. And we also assessed the technology readiness levels of the innovations if they could be assessed based on the papers that were included. And you can find the full report under MissionLakes website under Knowledge Hub and Deliverables. And again, I want to thank all my co-authors for such a wonderful collaboration during the review. So it would have been possible without you. Okay, so this figure summarizes the innovations that we've found that have most potential in transforming lake restoration. So we divided the innovations to in-lake solutions and external solutions, and then also combinations of different measures. And under the in-lake solutions, there were different nature-based solutions and also circular blue economy solutions for nutrient and biomass recovery and reuse in different purposes. And I will tell you more about them briefly. And then there were also nature-based solutions and circular blue economy solutions, and also those biodiversity-focused blended solutions to restore and support the natural structure and functioning of lakes. And then under the external solutions, the most promising ones were, of course, the land use management choices and practices for reduced pollution losses from land. And then also some NBS and BFS for improved water retention in the catchment areas, and then also approaches to enhance the natural functioning of streams and riparian forests and wetlands, and also to increase the water retention capacity on catchment scales. And then we also evaluated the combinations of measures, meaning the combinations either on catchment scales and in lakes, or then multiple in-lake measures that had been conducted in some of the studies. So we found that, of course, as always in lake restoration, a diagnosis of the problems and a proper system analysis guided method selection is essential. And then also the combinations within lakes and their catchments are often approaches that provide best or most long-lasting results. And these all provide possibilities to reduce nutrient pollution and also reduce the symptoms of eutrophication, and also deliver broad environmental and social co-benefits. If we go deeper into the innovative in-lake solutions that were included in the review. So the reviewed innovations or in-lake solutions were mainly applications of existing measures rather than novel or new solutions. But these innovative approaches, they were often or came often with co-benefits for circular economies or biodiversity. So they were, for example, there were more environmentally friendly materials and protocols for phosphorus inactivation, such as some novel lanthanum-based compounds, and also different sequential applications of different coagulants, for example, for the littoral areas and also for the profundal areas. And then there were different approaches for phosphorus recovery from lakes. For shallow lakes, there were different approaches for sediment removal and also its reuse in, for example, fertilization and or construction. And you will hear more about reuse in fertilization in this webinar as well. And then for the deeper lakes, for the stratifying lakes, an innovation is a hypolimit withdrawal and treatment system that also comes with potential for phosphorus recovery and phosphorus reuse, perhaps. And then for phosphorus recovery, there were also some phosphorus absorbents used as tea bags, tested in laboratory scales, but their scalability potential until now, it remains questionable. So these sediment removal and closed circuit hypolimit withdrawal, we found most potential ones for the phosphorus recovery. And then for the in-lake measures, there were also different approaches for excess biomass recovery and its reuse. For example, the biomanipulation with fish cats that can be reused in food or feed production or biogas production, which is frequently done, for example, in Finland and also in Future Lakes demonstration site, Lake Vesijärvi. The catch is being used in food production. And also macrophyte harvesting can be conducted as the biomass can be reused as, for example, insulation or building materials, or in renewable energy production, biogas production, and also as an additional feedstock in some cases. And then algal harvesting has also been tested in some cases, although the technology readiness level is not yet very high, but it has also potential for producing these high value end products, for example, in cosmetics, etc. And in Future Lakes, we also just conducted this algal harvesting trial at Lake Enäjärvi, Finland last week. So we will tell you more about the results later. And then as part of the in-lake solutions, there were also some approaches for supporting the natural functioning of lakes. For example, there were cases with biomanipulation and different kinds of fish passage structures or fish migration rivers, for example, that can be used for rebalancing the fish communities. And then also there were cases in which the shoreline habitats had been protected and restored. New habitats had been created, such as artificial reefs, for example. And then also there were approaches to support the re-establishment of submerged macrophytes. But these are all described in detail, or better in detail in the full report. Then the external solutions. So as we all know, the reduction of external pressures is of course, it's critically important while we implement any in-lake measures. And in external pollution control, such cropping and forest management strategies that prevent the nutrient losses from land are most efficient and essential for improved water protection control. So in that sense, controlled drainage, no tillage, continuous cover crops, and targeted fertilization in agriculture and in forestry, for example, the continuous cover forestry can reduce the nutrient losses from land. And also the approaches for increasing water retention capacity in catchment areas such as peatland restoration and wetland re-establishment are essential for reducing the pollution and also reducing the water losses from the catchment areas. And then there were also some approaches and structures evaluated that can complement water protection. So any of the end of pipe measures, they are not as effective as these cropping and forest management strategies that prevent the nutrient losses, but they can be used to complement water protection in the catchment areas. So there were different kinds of adsorbents or reactive media or sediment and nutrient interceptors that can be used for improved pollution control. And then also some structures that mimic the functions of natural habitats, such as two-stage channels and floodplains and floating treatment wetlands that can be used for also pollution control, but also to benefit the biodiversity on local scales. And then recently, different kinds of soil amendments for improved soil quality and also improved pollution control have been tested both on laboratory scales and on operational scales. And lastly, some approaches for phosphorus recovery from wastewaters were also evaluated. And for example, these source separation systems could be beneficial for phosphorus recovery, although it might be difficult to get them upscaled on wider scales. And lastly, we also evaluated the combinations of measures, or they were also included in the review. However, I must say that a minority of studies represented these combinations, either on catchment scales or in lake scales. So there were only 5% of studies describing these combined measures, although this combined strategy is most often such strategy that provides best results with highest result longevity. And this is because the many cases show that the extensive in-lake measures may provide negligible impact if the external loading continues. So always we should pay attention on the external loading as well while implementing any in-lake measures. And also, especially in shallow lakes, the interactions with biota can hamper the impacts of in-lake restoration efforts. So in lake restoration, we conclude that several processes that maintain eutrophyte status should be addressed simultaneously. And these are pictures from one of the Future Lakes innovation site, Lake Grote-Melonen from the Netherlands, in which several different in-lake measures and also water protection measures have been conducted to provide really good results. So to conclude about the review of innovations, our review, it underpins how difficult it is to conduct adequate lake restoration, and still no silver bullets or quick fixes exist for lake restoration. And it's always decisive to find the underlying causation for any restoration needs or problems that any lake faces. And for this, a system analysis or the diagnosis of the problems is a prerequisite for the selection of suitable or best approaches for the restoration and water protection. And always to prevent the contaminants from entering the water cycle is most effective rather than any of the end-of-pipe measures. Of course, they must be used to complement water protection, but in the first place, we should implement such sustainable land use that prevents the pollution in the first place. And in most cases, the combination of measures on both catchment scales and also in lakes is often the most effective strategy. And when it comes to in-lake measures, we find the approaches for nutrient recovery to provide high potential, or maybe the highest potential for providing long-lasting results, but their profitability needs to be developed. And to allow for the adoption of new measures and for the transformation in lake restoration, we need supportive policies and also regulative instruments. and new economic incentives and also financing schemes to allow for the transition. And similarly, of course, the education and awareness raising of relevant stakeholders is essential to allow for the uptake of these new approaches. And as Lawrence was saying, these all the policy cohesion and cohesion in water governance, along with new funding schemes and ways for improved stakeholder engagement, are all sought and demonstrated on Future Lakes demo site. So stay tuned for the results during the project. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks very much, Laura. I can see the applause coming in. I don't know if anyone has any questions. They could either put their hand up or they could write a question in the chat. I think you can see from Laura's presentation there are huge numbers of innovations out there potentially, and so having this catalogue now that really delves into them all hopefully will be a really useful resource for everyone. Okay, I can't see any hands up or chat messages here. So I don't know, if everyone's just feeling shy at the start of the MissionLakes webinar series. Laura, can you say one thing about the deliverable report is structured in a way to support the nature restoration regulation? Do you want to say something a little bit about how that's structured?
Yeah, so we wanted to respond to the needs of nature restoration regulation, so that we divided these measures under external solutions and internal solutions, and we have tried to kind of label the solutions under different needs that are represented in the nature restoration, the catalog that should be compiled.
Yeah, so I think you have them for like forestry landscapes and agricultural landscapes, and I can't remember, urban landscapes or whatever. They're tagged or organised in some way, aren't they? So hopefully that can be useful for national restoration plans. Okay, I don't see any questions or hands up. Is there no hands up? So if we don't have any more questions, then we will move to the next speaker. Thanks very much, Laura, again. That was great. Just comments about the nice presentation. So thanks again, and we will move to the next speaker, who is Mara Nilka from World Wildlife Fund Romania, and she's speaking on behalf of the EuroLakes project to give an overview of that. So Mara, I don't know if you can start sharing your screen, turn your camera on, and take over from here. That's looking good. That's perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. Super. So, hi everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Mara, and today I'm gonna take you through EuroLakes' approach to restoring lake landscapes, and we'll look at why landscape restoration is crucial, how the 4 returns works, and how we apply it step by step across different European lakes. So this slide gives you the big picture of EuroLakes, but I won't go into that very much. The consortium is made up of universities, research institutes, NGOs, and local stakeholders. Together, we combine ecological science, hydrology, economics, and community engagement to develop, let's say, solutions that can be scaled to other lakes across Europe. These are our, let's say, living laboratories, are our 3 lakes, one in Italy, one in Germany, and one in Romania. So MissionLakes, let's say it tackles the widespread issue of disconnected, short-lived project by embracing a more wide view, a long-term approach to lake ecosystem restoration. Understanding that the natural lakes face intertwined environmental, climate, and social and economical pressure drives this shift towards more an integrated and, let's say, sustainable solution. So I will go into the core framework, the 4 returns of the landscape restoration. Basically, this framework shows what landscape restoration really means. On the left, you see the processes, 5 steps that need to be followed, from building a partnership and a shared vision to planning, implementation, and continuous learning. In the middle, the impact. Restoration delivers 4 types of return: inspiration, social, natural, and financial. And it's also about the zones that can be natural, combined, and economic, which I may say need to work together as one system. And also, finally, the time frame. Real transformation takes at least 20 years. It's more or less one generation. So restoration is not just a quick fix, it's more like a long-term commitment. I will break down the framework. I will start with the 4 returns. First, the return of inspiration. People reconnect with the land, find hope, and start changing behaviors. This is the foundation basically for everything else. Second, you have the social returns, building knowledge, skills, and strong community networks. This leads to equity, resilience, food security, and altogether better living conditions. Third, the natural returns, restoring ecosystem, improving soil health, security, water security, and so on. These are all ecological benefits that make the landscape, let's say, more resilient. And finally, the financial returns with sustainable businesses models, access to finance, markets, higher profitability, and stable, let's say, housing income. Together, these returns ensure that the restoration is not just about nature, it's also about people, communities, and economies as well. The landscape is also divided into 3 zones which need to work together. You have the natural zones, areas like forests, wetlands, the lake itself, where the priority is restoring the ecosystem and biodiversities. Second, you have the combined zone, the transition area, where people produce food, maybe sustainable agriculture, aquaculture, since we are lakes. And third, the economic zone, the places where economic activities concentrate, processing, infrastructure, urban areas, and so on. The key idea is that none of these zones can succeed alone. They must somehow connect, so the nature, communities, and economy reinforce each other. Basically here, this is the roadmap of landscape restoration, 5 key elements. We start by building partnership, bringing together all stakeholders around the common vision. Then we develop a shared understanding of the land, its history, opportunities, and challenges, etc. Next, we co-create a vision and a plan, a long-term one, inspiring and also practical. Fourth, we take collective action, implementing projects and mobilizing finance. And finally, we monitor, learn, measure impact, adjustment strategies, and sharing lessons. These 5 elements ensure that the restoration is participatory, science-based, and also, let's say, sustainable over time. So, MissionLakes emphasizes shared stewardship via participatory, integrated, community-based approach. This brings together local residents, officials, and other stakeholders to co-create and own restoration strategies for the 3 demonstration lakes, Vico in Italy, Bistreț in Romania, and Dummer in Germany. This also, let's say, forest trust, adaptability, and genuine community commitment to the entire project. Also, to complete this, EuroLakes applies participatory multi-criteria analysis, PMCA, to compare scenarios outcomes in each restoration zones. These tools help identify trade-offs and craft strategies that maximize the flow returns under different configuration and evolving conditions. Okay, my favorite part, modeling. So the project also leverages cutting-edge modeling, combining water system models, biodiversity, and impact models to create those digital twins of lake ecosystems. This simulation helps evaluate the effect of the climate change, human activity, and management measures in a more dynamic and, what is also very important, predictive way. A key component here is the ECHO, the hydroeconomic model used to identify the optimal water management options in balancing domestical, industrial, agriculture demands, and so on, while also assessing their costs, their pros and their cons, the cost and benefits. To secure also the long-term sustainability, EuroLakes incorporates, let's say, ecosystem services evaluation and cost effectiveness analysis, assigning economical value to benefits like clean water, habitat health, flood regulations, and other functions, enables the design of more viable funding mechanisms, and enhances somehow, let's say, the investors to invest in restoration. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mara. I'll let the applause come out here, even though you can't hear it. Anyway, that was great. Again, I sort of asked for questions. I think we have a hand up, so we can start with that question. That's Anacleto. Do you want to just unmute, Anacleto, and say your question?
Yes, thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Mara, for the presentation. I was actually pretty curious by one of the last slides about the evaluation of the ecosystem service. And since you mentioned cost benefit, the question if you are planning to have some economic evaluation of the ecosystem service, and if yes, which kind of approach you plan to do?
So the cost benefit analysis is done by our partners from FIM. It really applies down to each lake. Some of us need to do this cost evaluation. In my case, because I'm from Bistreț, I won't apply. In my case, it's necessary the multi-criteria analysis to do on the case of Bistreț. But to be honest, I don't know how to answer your questions because I won't work directly with this particular issue.
I don't know if there's anyone else from the project online who is involved in that work who would like to respond. EuroLakes, if they want to put their hand up. And
I'm from EuroLakes, but I'm not sure how this will be exactly done. I don't know if anyone is from FIM here to explain this a bit in details. I don't think there is anyone right now. Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot explain in details because they will be working on this one.
Well,
So
Alexandra,
they know exactly.
we
If,
can.
if I may also say something. Hi, my name is Annie. I'm from MissionLakes as well. We've done a short campaign we are actually doing with the key concepts that we use in our project. And the latest one is on ecosystem services that are led by FIM, our partner. And if you like, you can either go to your LinkedIn account and look at the video because it explains what it is and how it will be applied in Eurolakes and what the impact will be. Or I can just share a link to that post here in the chat.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Anna, and thanks, Alexandra,
you.
as well. And we can put Anacleto also in touch through Alexandra and Mara.
Yeah, you can also reach out to me, and Annie, maybe you can just put it in a chat for everyone's information to see that video. I think it's great also and informative.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Mara. Have we got any other questions for Mara or for Alexandra as she's here? I have a question, but I was waiting to see if other people. We got Benjamin from the European Environment Agency, from DG Environment. Sorry.
Hello, and thank you for the very interesting presentation. So I have a question. I don't know if it is very relevant, but I wanted to ask it. So you mentioned some modeling, merging hydrological aspects and economic aspects, and I was wondering if the concept of good ecological potential was taken into account in this modeling, because for heavily modified water bodies, there are some mitigation measures that you cannot apply because you do not want to have a significant adverse effect on the use. And so this seems related, and I wanted to ask you, is this related to the modeling you're doing?
Mara?
I think it's a combination. I think the modeling comes with some results or recommendation, and then you have the other two tools, let's say, including the benefit cost analysis. You have the PMCA that also, in the end, you choose the best solution that doesn't affect, if I understand correctly your question. So it's not the modeling itself that does only that, it's the entire tools that we use to develop the best solution, including the cost benefit analysis, the PMCA, and also including the all its the stakeholder involvements that have a say in this. So not itself the modeling. It just offers some solutions and numbers and recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Benjamin. And Mara, I had a question about communities practice, because you highlighted in your talk, your communities of practice are very much sort of, it sounds like within a lake basin. Is there any work in Eurolakes about different lake basins talking to each other and creating a community of practice across Europe?
Just to the communities from different countries talking to each other.
Yeah, lake managers, for example, lake managers, yeah.
Not yet. Not yet. Maybe it's a good idea. I think it's maybe a quick or a bit earlier for this. Maybe when we go forward with our webinars, our workshops, that will be the point where everybody somehow it can meet. Vico is already ahead, but we will have in this autumn our own workshop about PMCA, and of course there everybody is going to be introduced from different communities, the different lakes, and so on. That will be the bridge. But until for Bistretz, it didn't happen yet.
Yeah, no, I sort of agree with you. It's maybe a later phase for the 4 projects, the sort of upscaling phase of the projects when we have more results. But I think, as we now have 4 projects with many lake basin managers probably involved in all of them, it's potential. We have that opportunity within the 4 projects to create a European community of practice for for this, and that's something we should think about for our sort of upscaling plans, I guess. Okay, I see another hand up from Udo from Global Nature Fund.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to also contribute briefly to that discussion. My name is Udo from Global Nature Fund, and we're also one of the project partners of the EuroLakes project. And in view on the dialogue between the practitioners, so to speak, of course, that is an important aspect of this project. That's why we have those three lakes where we can implement the activities on a practical and tangible level. And of course, the dialogue between those implementation partners is one important aspect, but it goes, of course, beyond that level. And what I wanted to mention, and it's a little bit like a short advertisement block, is in the framework of that work package 5, upscaling and replication plays a very important role. And there is a budget allocated in the framework of this project of 250,000 euro for replication projects, 3 to maximum 5. And we will launch a call, we, the consortium, but GNF is in charge of that. And we have the call ready by the end of September. So please stay tuned and watch the website. So we will share then the criteria for potential partners to apply for funding in order to also contribute with very practical experience to the project, but also, as I said, replicate and scale up. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I can comment on that, that 2 of the 4 projects have already been through this process of bringing on associated regions to their projects. So that's Future Lakes and Pro Clean Lakes. So we now both have 3 additional partners, in a way, associated region partners, and as I said, some of them are here today. And so that, again, it increases the potential for communities of practice across Europe. But yeah, 2 projects. So I think it's EuroLakes and Faro will be having those calls. I think, is it this year, later this year, you're planning in EuroLakes to have the call? Open the call?
We're just waiting for the green light from the Commission. And the plan is to launch it on 1st October. And then it's a 3-month application period. And then starts the selection and then, of course, the implementation of the project.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks for that. Okay, we're doing well with timekeeping, but any other questions or comments? I don't need to force things, so we can have a slightly more extended coffee break now. Gives us time to actually make our coffees or whatever. So I just wanted to thank again the first 2 speakers. Some really nice overviews of the work going on, and we'll come back after the coffee break. We'll stick to the time schedule, come back at 2:10 with talks from Pro Clean Lakes, Faro, and actually a joint presentation between Faro and Future Lakes, and then the wrap up and questions at the end. Okay, so we'll stop the recording now, I guess, and then start it again, and we'll see you all in about 15 minutes. Okay, thanks.
No, do you hear me?
Anka, are you